Hi there, it's Chris, and I thought today we would paint one of my most requested flowers, which is a very loose hydrangea. I love to paint hydrangea. I love actual hydrangea. I have some in my yard. They are mostly blue, but I would encourage you to do this with really any color that you like. These are the paints I'm going to use. It's mainly a French ultramarine with some indigo to get variation in how dark the color is, and we'll also add in a little violet. Any other purple, really any blue that you'll have will work. The leaves will be mainly permanent sap green and whatever's left on my palette, which is probably some green gold, maybe something darker. We'll figure that out as we go. I have a large round brush. This is a Pigeon Letters round size 10. I have my watercolor 140 pound cold press paper and clean water and paper towel. So let's jump right in to doing a really loose hydrangea. So the first thing I'm gonna do is load my brush with a lot of dark pigment, a lot of our dark blues, and I'm gonna make some little petal shapes, kind of like that, a number of different places, not next to each other, okay? So if you picture the hydrangea being generally here, we're gonna kind of just make some single petal shapes, maybe a little rounded, like this. Again, I'm gonna do this really fast. While this is wet, we're going to go and rinse off our brush. I'm gonna mix a little purple, maybe a little of our violet in, and I'm going to put another petal either next to or across from our first ones. So this is like next to it. This one will be across from, and I have a good bit of pigment on my brush here too. It's just a slightly different shade. Okay, rinse again. Now I have nothing but water, all right? And I'm gonna go into each of these and make a petal out of nothing but water. And it's okay if it touches other things around it. And if you need to get a little more water on your brush as you go, just to encourage movement of the petal, then get a little more, all right? So you see we're starting to get like some variation here. I'm gonna keep going with just water, kind of pull out some petals from the other sides, and see how messy I'm being. Like I'm not really looking at my shapes too closely or how my colors are kind of blending. It's just gonna kind of be a mishmash, okay? So now we can go in. I'm gonna get a little more ultramarine blue on my brush, but I'm gonna keep it fairly wet. And I'm gonna go and add, so kind of start the process over. So I'm gonna make some petals that look like this, and some I'll put up next to the ones we did, and some I'll put like out towards the edge, maybe a little. Again, I'm letting the flower shape kind of evolve as we go. I'm not worried too much. We'll refine it as, you know, as we move through it. So some will go in the center here. I really like that color. It seems really pretty. Seems like very true to hydrangea color. Okay, so now I'm gonna get some darker pigment again, and maybe I'm gonna add a little more of our violet to it, okay? So we're gonna get like some violet tones going in. And I'm gonna go next to the ones I just did. That's adding some variation. And, you know, will this be very true to what an actual hydrangea looks like? You know, I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. I'm trying to get in there while these are still wet to add this color. Okay, so just encourage them to bleed. All right, I'm gonna go in with some water now again. Come in and touch some of these, add like the third or fourth petal. I like to have a lot of the like lighter tone petals. If you like more of that dark, then definitely add more pigment. We'll go back in and add some more pigment to the center when we get towards the end. So we will kind of darken the center spots. It'll give it a little depth when we get closer to the end. All right, I'm gonna add a little indigo now to my color and make the blue a little more true blue, and maybe add a little petal here or there. So some of these, like these petals would be underneath the other ones, so we're getting a little bit of layering now, which we want to do. So now I'm starting to look a little bit more at my shape to see where that's going. So I would just keep varying the shades you're using and think about your petal placement a little. I'm just kind of trying to get a generally round, right? It's mostly round, doesn't have to be perfectly round. Okay, so I feel like we have like a good thing kind of going here. What do you think? I think that's pretty good. I think we don't have exactly a round shape, but I don't really want it to be perfectly symmetrical. All right, I feel like a little bit more of just water is called for on some of these. And then, yeah, okay. All right, so we'll let that kind of do its thing. Let's go and get our sap green and get a good bit on our brush. Mix that up and get over. And this, so the flower's gonna come this way, I think, is what we'll do. Just draw your line. There you go. Simple stem, nothing fancy. Hydrangea leaves are really broad and wide, and a lot of times you can only see part of them. They're coming out from underneath. And also as the hydrangea goes up, the stem kind of separates, so almost where it branches, so we can get a little of that effect on this. I think that looks good. So I'm gonna do my first leaf pretty wet to just get the shape of it, and then we'll add more pigment as we go. So if a leaf was coming like this way, say it's here, and we'll kind of pull it back, and it has kind of these edges, right? It's not perfectly smooth. We'll kind of bring it out a little, like along the edge. That's a very big leaf, but that's fine. So if we add some more pigment, maybe bring in a darker green, a hooker's green, or undersea green, you can add a little dark shadow there. And we'll just kind of give a little edge to our leaf. So it has like a lot of variation, which I like. And then I'm just gonna pull where the like vein would be here. And then we're gonna kind of let that guy sit for a minute. And see how it's bleeding into the petals? I love that. So I'm just gonna let that be. I'm gonna add another leaf over here. So I'm just gonna take my brush and put more water on it and add another leaf here. Same concept, I just pull out as I go and I get these little edges, which I like. So now a little more of your greens, your darker green. And just get a little bit of a shadow going. It doesn't have to be all over, but I'm gonna put it up near the flower here. Kind of pull out where the stem would, the veining would be. So I like that. You can see how it's shaping up now. So let's look at our flower a little bit. I still think the shape is pretty good, but I want to go in and add some darker pigment in a couple places to make it look like some of those petals are dark down underneath. And we will come back to our leaves in a minute too. So I'm gonna get some indigo and I'm gonna mix that in. That's a very overpowering blue, so I'm gonna temper it with a little of that violet. And then I'm just gonna go in and put in some really dark petals that are going to look like they're coming out from behind, if that makes sense. I don't want to overdo this, so let's just stop for a second, and then let's rinse the brush. And I definitely want to put like the slightest bit of pigment on the brush and just add a little more shape where I think we need it. Yeah, not bad. I feel like out here could use a little more. Let's look at our leaves again. I think they're looking good. I might do a third, like just the edge of a leaf poking out up here. So let's get a little more. Again, we'll start light with the color and then we can always add the dark details. So I'm gonna add one where it literally is just the tip of it is kind of coming out. Add those highlights and lowlights, okay? Okay, so that's your basics. You don't have to do anything else with this if you don't want to. I think it looks great the way it is and it's really simple. This will dry and look really pretty. And again, it's really, really loose. A couple of things you can do, totally optional. If you want to if you look at a hydrangea, the center of the flowers, like this would be a full flower. The very center sometimes has a tint of yellow or like a darker section or something like that. If you want to add more detail, this is a size 6. If you want to add more detail, you can go in, totally personal preference. You can add, sometimes I just like to add a little, just little dots of yellow. I think it's fun, adds a little more interest to it. You can also add dots of like deeper color if you don't want to, you know, introduce the yellow. And this is just Winsor Yellow Deep that I'm using. You just see like part of it, like there. So if you want to do that, you can have some fun. I think it makes it look cute, and keeps it interesting. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope that you'll give this a try. I hope that you'll post it on Instagram and tag me at Sweet Seasons Art. I love to share everybody's work, and I hope you'll leave a comment and follow my channel. I so appreciate you painting with me today. Thanks for joining me, and happy painting, everyone.